First Contact Protocol. The stars greeted Admiral Helena Reyes as she stepped onto the observation deck of the Terran Defense Station Vigilant. The enormous structure hung in geosynchronous orbit above Earth, a testament to humanity's technological advancement and determination to protect their homeworld. Reyes watched the fleet exercises with practiced eyes, monitoring as the sleek vessels of the Terran Defense Force executed precision maneuvers through the void. "Admiral, we have a situation." Commander Junwei approached, his usually calm demeanor replaced with tense urgency. "Long-range sensors have detected unusual energy signatures at the edge of our solar system. Pattern analysis suggests they're not natural phenomena." Reyes's face remained impassive, but her mind raced through possibilities. Humanity had expanded to Mars, Europa, and established outposts across the asteroid belt, but they'd never encountered intelligent extraterrestrial life. They had theorized, prepared, and planned, but theory was about to become reality. "Show me," she ordered, following Wei to the command center where holographic displays illuminated the room with cascading data. The energy signatures pulsed with alarming regularity, deliberate, controlled, artificial. "We're tracking 27 objects, Admiral. They've decelerated from FTL travel and are maintaining position just beyond Neptune's orbit." Wade gestured to the tactical display. "Based on their formation and energy output, these are ships. Large ones." Reyes studied the data, her trained mind calculating distances, vectors, and potential threat assessments. "Activate First Contact Protocol. Alert all TDF vessels and colonies. Bring defense systems to standby. But no aggressive postures." She paused, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. "And get me a direct line to the Security Council." Within hours, Earth was abuzz with the news. After centuries of wondering, humanity was no longer alone in the cosmos. As the unknown vessels maintained their position, a message arrived. A complex mathematical sequence that Earth's AI systems quickly deciphered into a communication protocol. The first transmission from the alien fleet came through clearly. "Attention inhabitants of Sol system. This territory now falls under the protection and authority of the hegemony of aligned worlds. Prepare to receive representatives to discuss terms of integration." The message was cold, precise, and unmistakably an ultimatum. In the emergency session of the United Earth Security Council, opinions were divided. Some advocated immediate surrender to the clearly advanced civilization. Others demanded a show of force to demonstrate humanity's resolve. Admiral Reyes stood before them, her voice steady. "These beings, this hegemony, they've approached us with assumptions. They expect fear, compliance, or perhaps reckless aggression. I propose we give them none of these." She outlined her plan, and after heated debate, the Council agreed. Earth would neither bow nor strike blindly. When the hegemony's ambassadorial vessel approached Earth 3 days later, they were met not with weapons or white flags, but with a single Terran diplomatic ship, the Handshake. From it, a transmission. "Hegemony vessel, this is Captain Omar Khalid of Earth. We welcome open dialogue between our civilizations, but we do not recognize any authority over our sovereign system. We invite you to neutral coordinates for discussion." The response was immediate and dismissive. A beam with iridescent scales and multiple eye stalks appeared on the communication screens. "I am Overseer Thal Korax of the Hegemony. Your species is young and has much to learn. The Hegemony brings order to chaos, protection in exchange for resources. Your acceptance is expected and resistance would be regrettable. You have 48 Earth hours to prepare for integration." Behind the diplomatic exchange, Reyes had been orchestrating the most significant military mobilization in human history. The publicly known Terran Defense Force was impressive. Hundreds of warships, fighter squadrons, and orbital platforms. But the true extent of humanity's military capabilities had been kept secret even from most of Earth's population. Hidden shipyards within hollowed-out asteroids, subterranean factories on Mars, and cloud cities floating in Venus's upper atmosphere had been manufacturing advanced weapons systems for decades. The Vigilant Protocol, a contingency plan for extraterrestrial contact, had been in place since humanity's first steps into the solar system. As the deadline approached, the hegemony fleet moved inward, spreading out to envelop Earth's defensive positions. Their ships were massive, some nearly 5 kilometers in length, with strange organic-looking hulls that seemed to pulse with internal light. Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge of the TDS Resolute, the flagship of humanity's revealed fleet. The communications officer turned to her. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the hegemony command ship." The image of Overseer Thal-Korax appeared, his eye stalks quivering with what humans would later learn was contemptuous amusement. "Your deadline expires. We have counted your vessels and assessed your technology. Your resistance will be brief and educational. Surrender now, and we will be merciful." Reyes met the alien's gaze without flinching. "Overseer, you've counted what we wanted you to see. The Terran Defense Force declined your offer." With practiced precision, she gave the order that would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. Operation Checkmate. Execute. Throughout the solar system, hidden weapon platforms emerged from camouflaged positions. Stealth ships dropped their energy-absorbing shields, suddenly appearing on sensors. And from behind the sun, utilizing the massive star as cover, came the true might of humanity's secret fleet, the Shadow Armada. The hegemony vessels, arranged for a simple subjugation action, found themselves surrounded and outgunned in a stunning reversal. Reyes had no intention of firing first, but she had positioned humanity to negotiate from strength, not weakness. "Overseer," she transmitted, "perhaps we should reconsider the terms of our discussion." The alien commander's reaction was not what anyone expected. After a moment of stunned silence, the Overseer began making a rhythmic clicking sound. It took Earth's translators several seconds to recognize it as laughter. "Fascinating," Thal-Korax said. "In 8 centuries of expansion, no species has ever hidden their true capabilities from the hegemony's initial assessment. You are unexpected." The Overseer's eye stalks straightened in what appeared to be a gesture of respect. "But do not mistake tactical surprise for strategic advantage, humans. This was merely a preliminary force. The true might of the hegemony remains distant but vast." With that, the hegemony fleet began a coordinated withdrawal, their engines flaring with exotic energy as they retreated beyond Neptune's orbit. The celebration across Earth was tempered by the knowledge that this was only the beginning. Humanity had won the first encounter not through superior firepower, but through strategic deception and psychological insight. They had correctly gambled that a species accustomed to easy conquest would retreat when faced with unexpected resistance, buying precious time. Admiral Reyes knew the reprieve would be brief. In her quarters aboard the Resolute, she reviewed intelligence reports from deep space monitoring stations. The hegemony ships had sent burst transmissions toward a specific sector of space before departing. "They'll be back," she told the gathered military leadership during the debriefing. "And next time, they'll come prepared for a real fight." General Ibrahim Santos of the Mars Colonial Guard nodded grimly. "How long do we have?" Based on their FTL capabilities and the distance to their nearest major base, 3 months at minimum, 6 at most. Reyes brought up a holographic display of known space beyond the solar system. "We need to be ready, but we also need to understand what we're facing. This isn't just about defending Earth anymore. We need to know everything about the hegemony, their technology, their society, their weaknesses." Dr. Sophia Chen, head of xenobiology at the Lunar Science Academy, spoke up. "There's something else to consider." The Overseer mentioned 8 centuries of expansion. That suggests the hegemony has encountered and presumably subjugated numerous other species. Some of them might not be happy about their status. Reyes nodded slowly, a plan forming in her mind. "Then perhaps Earth doesn't stand alone. We need to find these other species, potential allies, or at least others with grievances against our common enemy." The Security Council approved the plan. While Earth prepared its defenses, a small fleet of the fastest and stealthiest human ships would venture into the unknown, seeking information and potential allies among the stars. As the meeting concluded, Reyes returned to the observation deck, gazing out at the stars that no longer seemed quite so welcoming. Humanity had passed its first test, but the true challenge was just beginning. The hegemony had underestimated humans once. They wouldn't make that mistake again. In deep space, at the edge of the Alpha Centauri system, humanity's closest stellar neighbor, and the site of their most distant outpost, the first major battle for Earth's future would soon be fought. The small research colony there had been hastily fortified, turned from a scientific curiosity into a strategic choke point. 6 weeks after the initial contact, the sensors at Alpha Centauri Station picked up the first signs of the hegemony's return, a much larger fleet, with ships of designs not seen before. The hegemony had indeed called for reinforcements, but they had arrived sooner than expected. Commander Elena Rodriguez of the Alpha Centauri Defense Fleet watched the enemy ships emerge from FTL travel, their hulls gleaming with that same unsettling organic luminescence. There were hundreds of them this time, arranged in a formation that spoke of tactical sophistication. "They're not taking any chances," her executive officer noted grimly. Rodriguez nodded. "They're expecting resistance now." She activated the secure quantum communication link to Earth. "Admiral Reyes, this is Commander Rodriguez. The hegemony has arrived at Alpha Centauri in force. Estimate 300-plus vessels, including what appear to be dedicated warships." Reyes's response was immediate. "Hold position, Commander. Reinforcements are en route." The hegemony must believe Alpha Centauri is more valuable to us than it actually is. Make them work for every meter of space. The plan was already in motion. While the hegemony focused on what they perceived as humanity's vulnerable outpost, Earth was preparing its true defense and gathering intelligence that would prove crucial in the coming conflict. As the first hegemony weapons fire illuminated the darkness around Alpha Centauri, humanity's defiance had only just begun. The unseen advantage. The battle for Alpha Centauri lasted 7 days. Commander Rodriguez and her fleet fought with a combination of conventional tactics and guerrilla warfare that kept the hegemony off balance. They used the system's dense asteroid fields for cover, planted quantum mines in strategic locations, and executed hit-and-run attacks that slowly whittled down the enemy's numbers. But despite their valiant resistance, the outcome was inevitable. On the 7th day, with her flagship critically damaged and half her fleet destroyed, Rodriguez gave the order to abandon the station. "All personnel, execute Protocol Omega. I repeat, execute Protocol Omega." Her voice was steady despite the explosions rocking her ship. "May your journeys be swift and your arrival unexpected." To the hegemony, it appeared that the humans were fleeing in disarray, their forces scattered and broken. In reality, each retreating vessel followed precise escape vectors, carrying not just survivors, but vital combat data and sensor readings that would provide Earth with invaluable insights into hegemony weapons, shields, and tactics. Most importantly, the evacuation ships contained samples of hegemony technology salvaged during boarding actions, technology that would accelerate human research by decades. Deep within the hegemony command ship, Overseer Thal-Korax reviewed the battle data with growing concern. The humans had fought far more effectively than any newly contacted species should have been able to. Their weapons, while less advanced, had been employed with cunning precision. Their ships displayed maneuverability that suggested inertial control systems the hegemony's intelligence had not detected. "High Overseer Kvex must be informed," Thal-Korax told his subordinates. "This species requires a full pacification fleet." The message was sent through quantum relays to the hegemony's central worlds, dozens of light years distant. The response would take time to arrive, but Thal-Korax had his orders. Secure Alpha Centauri, establish a forward base, and prepare for the invasion of the Sol system. Meanwhile, The scattered ships of Commander Rodriguez's fleet did not flee back to Earth as the hegemony expected. Instead, following prearranged contingency plans, they disappeared into the depths of unexplored space, using stealth technology to mask their trajectories. On Earth, Admiral Reyes received the encrypted data packets from Alpha Centauri with a mixture of grief and determination. The battle had cost lives. Good people under her command, but their sacrifice had purchased something precious: understanding. "They're not invincible," she announced to the Security Council, presenting the analysis of the Alpha Centauri engagement. "Their ships have superior energy weapons and FTL capabilities, but their reaction times suggest heavy reliance on centralized command structures. They're vulnerable to electronic warfare, and their shields have fluctuation patterns we can exploit." The counselors absorbed this information with grave expressions. The initial elation of humanity's first successful stand had faded, replaced by the sobering reality of a protracted interstellar war. "What about the technology samples?" asked Counselor Yamamoto. Dr. Eliza Sharma, chief of the Xenotech Research Division, stepped forward. The boarding teams recovered fragments of their navigation systems and shield generators. Most promising is a partially intact quantum communication device that operates on principles we've theorized but never successfully implemented. "How long until we can adapt these technologies?" Counselor Okeffer's question cut to the heart of the matter. "For full integration, years," Dr. Sharma admitted. "But we don't need to understand everything to turn some of it against them. We're already developing countermeasures based on their shield frequencies." As Earth prepared for invasion, the ships that had scattered from Alpha Centauri were executing the second phase of Admiral Rice's strategy. Led by Captain Maya Ortiz aboard the stealth cruiser Phantom, these vessels were making contact with other species who had fallen under hegemony control. The first such encounter occurred in a remote system designated HC 271. Where Ortiz's sensors had detected unusual energy patterns, suggesting clandestine activity. What they found was a resistance movement formed by the Neridal, an avian species whose homeworld had been one of the first conquered by the hegemony centuries ago. The Neridal were initially suspicious of the human emissaries, but shared suffering created common ground. When Ortiz showed them footage of the battle at Alpha Centauri, the Neridal resistance leader, a battle-scarred veteran named Kirith, spread his feathered wings in a gesture of respect. "Your species has courage," he said through the translation matrix. "But courage alone will not defeat the hegemony. They will send more ships than there are stars in your sky." "We don't plan to match them ship for ship," Ortiz replied. "We intend to change the rules of engagement." Similar diplomatic missions were underway throughout hegemony space, each finding pockets of resistance among conquered species. The Valdorians, silicon-based entities who communicated through crystalline resonance. The Mechthar, a collective intelligence spread across thousands of biomechanical bodies. The Zintari, who had once possessed technology rivaling the hegemony before their defeat. Each contact brought new allies, new technologies, and new strategies. But most importantly, these missions discovered something the hegemony had kept secret from each subjugated world. They were stretched thin, maintaining control through fear rather than omnipresence. 4 months after the fall of Alpha Centauri, the hegemony pacification fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system. It was the largest military force ever assembled in this sector of the galaxy. Over 2,000 warships led by High Overseer Kivex himself, a being so ancient and augmented that little remained of his original biological form. "Humans of Earth," Kivex's transmission boomed across all frequencies. "Your defiance has been noted and will be remembered in the archives. But it ends today. Surrender now, and your species will be permitted to exist under hegemony guidance. Resist, and we will reduce your worlds to ash." The message was met with silence. Kivex, unaccustomed to being ignored, ordered the fleet to advance. As they passed the orbit of Neptune, automated defense platforms activated, launching swarms of self-replicating mines that attached themselves to hegemony hulls. Rather than exploding, These devices began hijacking the ship's external communication systems, flooding them with contradictory commands. The hegemony fleet's tight formation began to fracture as individual captains received what appeared to be emergency orders to change course, alter shield frequencies, or power down weapon systems. Years of rigid hierarchy had left them ill-equipped to question commands that appeared to come from legitimate superiors. In the confusion, the first wave of Earth's defense fleet struck from hiding places among the outer planets. These weren't just human ships anymore. They had been modified with technologies shared by Earth's new allies, their hulls strengthened with Valdorian crystal matrices, their weapons enhanced with Zentari phase shift technology. High Overseer Kivex, realizing the extent of the deception, managed to regain control of his forces through direct quantum-entangled links to his command staff. The hegemony fleet regrouped and pushed forward, their superior numbers beginning to tell despite the initial chaos. The battle raged throughout the solar system. Jupiter's moons became battlegrounds, the rings of Saturn obscured by explosions and weapons fire. Earth's fleet executed a fighting retreat, drawing the hegemony deeper into prepared killing zones where overlapping fields of fire took a steady toll on the invaders. Aboard the TDS Resolute, Admiral Rice watched the tactical displays with grim satisfaction. The hegemony was winning as expected, but they were paying a price they had never anticipated, and they still didn't understand the true nature of humanity's strategy. Signal from the Phantom, Admiral, her communications officer reported. Captain Ortiz reports Operation Avalanche is ready. Rice nodded. Tell her she has clearance to proceed. Throughout hegemony space, the scattered ships that had fled Alpha Centauri months ago had been busy. Together with their new allies, they had planted quantum communication disruptors at key strategic locations, relay stations, supply depots, command centers. At Reyes's signal, these devices activated simultaneously, severing the hegemony's ability to coordinate across their vast territory. And in that moment of communication blackout, rebellions that had been carefully coordinated across a dozen worlds erupted in perfect synchrony. The Neridal, the Valdorians, the Mekthar, and others rose up against their oppressors, targeting key hegemony installations with inside knowledge of their vulnerabilities. In the Sol system, the effect was immediate. The quantum communications linking High Overseer Kivex to the hegemony's central authority collapsed. Cut off from reinforcement and strategic direction, faced with an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move, the hegemony fleet's advance faltered. And then came humanity's masterstroke. From behind the sun emerged not another battle fleet, but a single massive vessel unlike anything seen before. The culmination of human ingenuity combined with alien technology, the Daedalus projected a quantum field that did not destroy hegemony ships, but rather temporarily disabled their systems, leaving them drifting and defenseless. On the bridge of his command ship, High Overseer Kivex watched in disbelief as section after section of his fleet went dark. For the first time in 1,000 years of existence, he felt something approaching fear. A communication request came through on his personal channel, one of the few systems still functioning. When he accepted, Admiral Rice's face appeared before him. High Overseer, she said without preamble, your fleet is disabled, your empire is in revolt, and your options are limited. I offer terms. Withdraw from our system. Acknowledge humanity's sovereignty and that of any world that chooses independence from the hegemony, and we will allow your remaining ships to depart. Kivex's voice was a harsh mechanical rasp. You cannot comprehend what you have done, human. The hegemony has maintained galactic stability for millennia. Without our control, chaos will reign. Perhaps, Rise acknowledged, or perhaps the species you've subjugated will build something better in its place. Either way, the old order ends today. After a long silence, the High Overseer responded, I will withdraw what remains of this fleet. But know this, humans, you have not seen the last of the hegemony. What you have started here will echo across the stars for generations. As the disabled hegemony ships were reactivated one by one and began their retreat from the solar system, Humanity celebrated their victory, but Admiral Reyes and the other architects of Earth's defense knew that this was not an ending but a transformation. The galaxy was changing. The alliance forged in resistance to the hegemony was already evolving into something new, a coalition of free worlds bound by mutual respect rather than force. Representatives of a dozen species gathered on Luna to discuss the shape of this new interstellar community, with humanity serving not as conquerors but as catalysts for change. In her address to the First Galactic Concord Assembly, Admiral Reyes spoke words that would be remembered for centuries to come. "We stand here not because humans are exceptional, but because we recognize what the hegemony forgot. True strength comes not from dominance, but from diversity. Not from control, but from cooperation. The stars belong to no single species, and the future we build among them will be one we shape together, as equals." And as delegates from worlds spanning the galactic arm applauded these sentiments, one truth became clear to all. Humanity's greatest weapon had never been their ships or their strategies, but their fundamental belief that opposition to tyranny was worth any risk. In defying an empire, they had changed the stars themselves.